You got to start bombing the show.
What? no bombing it, Xbot. Come on now. Xbox Nation, that's it. That's the show. And it is Wednesday night. And we've got a good show planned for you guys. It's going to be a really good show. Surprisingly, it was going to be Moochless for a little bit, and then Mooch is here. Yes. So I was originally planning just to go without Mooch for about a half hour or so, but he's here and he's ready to dive in. What do you got going on, Mooch? Anything in particular?
It's funny because I'm actually excited. I'm always excited for Xbox Nation, right? So Xbox Nation is going to be great tonight. There's no doubt about it. But to be honest with you, I'm actually pumped to get off, and I know we're going to get into it, but I can't wait. I was on the road, just got home, get to play Destiny 2. I did play a little bit of Raging Justice already. I played the first 3-4 levels. It's funny you could say levels again too, because that's the way we used to say it back in the day. That's the way those games were designed. So that was a good time. There's just a lot of gaming going on right now, so I'm excited to kind of catch up on what everyone's been enjoying this week.
For a console with no games, you're saying you're playing plenty of games.
Yes, I am playing plenty of games that are on many consoles.
Minesweeper and Solitaire.
Solitaire and Minesweeper. Yeah. So that's good to hear. And you know what, Raging Justice, I'm a fan.
I haven't actually played it yet.
So far, I gotta say, I kind of like it. The music is a little bit left to be desired for, but I actually like the game.
I thought we would have got a little bit more of a sound over or sound bites. Even if they were
ooch, right?
Yeah, a little bit more. Yeah, like a little bit of that stuff we used to see back in what was it there? Not Final. Was it Final Fight? I can't remember what it was there.
Man, that game kind of reminds me of like a little bit of Double Dragon, and there's some other games too that it sort of reminds me
of. Like a Streets of Rage.
Streets of Rage, Double Dragon. Yes.
Yeah, like those type of games.
Streets of Rage was awesome.
Yeah, so that's good. And we got Hellhammer here. What's up? How you
Not
doing?
Too much. I beat Super Lucky's Tale today. So.
Super Lucky's Tale. Nobody wants to play that. We got to say it's award-winning Super Lucky's Tale. They won some kind of award today. So
holy shit!
I know, right? Congrats.
That game is actually really good. It's very underrated.
Yeah. Oh, of course. It's funny. Like these companies have to cater towards everybody, and so that covers that. That's right. What that is. It's a fine platformer for what it is. People just hate on it because it's easy to kind of target that game. But overall it's a fine platformer.
It's a solid game.
It fills a genre nicely. I mean, you can say what you want about their other things.
It's not Mario 64 by any means, but I mean, for what it is, and it's a solid platformer that was worth the time that I put into it, which was like 6 hours.
Yeah, and he's like, I beat it, and I was like, cool. Did you beat the DLC yet?
Not yet. No, I started on it though.
Yeah, that's right. He got the DLC, folks. You better believe it.
Are you able to customize Lucky yet?
I actually don't have that set of DLC yet. I have to buy that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I only have the first set.
Oh, okay. Well, nice to see that. And we also have guest starring Xbot 448.
What's going on, everybody? Destiny 2 Warmind expansion. That's what I've been doing all day today.
I'm with you, buddy.
What's that? I don't even know what that is.
I already beat the story.
Destiny.
I already beat the story.
They all came back.
Doesn't ring a bell.
They all float.
Mooch, I never left, really, man.
No, I know you didn't. That's true.
All I'm seeing is that PlayStation has exclusive strikes still.
Hey, why don't you introduce Don before I get on my rant?
Yeah, that's true. We've got, hold on. Kiss that ring. Don. Here he is. What's up, Don?
Man, I thought the only reason we had Xbot on is to do my intro.
That's nice. What my career has come down to, people. I introduce Don anywhere he goes. I release doves as well.
I mean, I can go get burritos.
Xbot 448
doves and intro.
He's the Ed McMahon of podcasts. Great. And now,
that guy got some decent paychecks for.
Yes, he does. Xbot, that's right. And he had minimal work. That's very true. I like that.
Well, it's always good to have the Don on air because, like, some of the stuff I want to talk about is stuff that he was actually talking about for over the past couple of weeks. And so when other developers start to chime in on that stuff, you start to get that in the back of your head, like, hey, it'd be a good time to have the Don on. Get some of his expertise and stuff like that. So we do have Noof come in a little bit later. He works on Wednesday, so he shows up a little bit late, but he will be joining us as well. So anyway, this was pointing out that Destiny the strikes or whatever, they're exclusive. The only new and original strike is exclusive to PlayStation. Those are advertised as new and separate content, same as they are in the original game. However, in the new DLC Warmind, 2 of them are literally just the last 2 campaign levels, with the third and only original content one being exclusive to PS4. So,
well, I mean, let's break it down, Crap, because and listen, first of all, anybody who's upset, me and shout out to Xbox Junkie. Me and him had an awesome conversation just before the show went live. He's an awesome dude, and I respect everything he has to say. And he's not wrong as far as the way he's feeling. And a lot of people feel like this, so it's not just to pick on Junkie, but like there's a lot of people that feel like this is BS from Bungie. Bungie shouldn't have done this. And if you feel like that, just ask yourself a question. Just take yourself out of the podcast mentality real quick and put yourself in the situation where you're now so-and-so Inc. Okay, you're that company. You have somebody that says, excuse me, sir, Sony's at the door, and they come into your office and they say, we want strikes, we want certain gear, and we're willing to pay this amount of money. You may have even at your company said, okay, wait, you want that? I want this amount of money. I want more than that. And Sony says yes. Okay, this is what happens when you have competing consoles or a console that wants to win. They went in there, they made a deal. When you have multi-plats that are shared across multiple platforms, the game is the same on both, essentially. So how do you differentiate? How do you make your platform more appealing? Whether it be gear, timed maps, or exclusive content in strikes, gear, and maps. So when people say they're upset with Bungie, I'm not upset with Bungie. I think Bungie just did what every business would do. They took the money. I'm not upset with Sony because they realized they had the same product going into this as Xbox. You're have to actually look at Xbox. It. I'm upset with Xbox because they are the ones that came up with this whole idea way back in the day and it's not exactly the same. But when they did the Call of Duty maps, we had the maps 30 to 90 days before
30 days. Yeah, it was okay. 30 days. Yeah.
And don't get me wrong. This is rumored to be 6 months to a year again. But my point being, well, that's the rumor. No one's actually come out and said it. But my point being is that this is the issue here, folks. Don't be upset. You can't be upset that 2 companies did business. You got to be upset that the third one was sitting on their hands.
Well, what's on top of that is Microsoft still owns part of Bungie. Even though they're kind of separate and they own the majority of their own shares now, Microsoft is still an investor in Bungie. So it's not like they didn't know this was coming.
Yeah, that's like originally this game was supposed to be exclusive or a year exclusive or something along those lines. And that ended up being the case because Microsoft went after the Titanfall stuff. So, that's a bit of an interesting situation. For me, I think, you're right. Like, I'm not mad at Sony for doing what a business should do. I agree, and I've had this conversation.
You gave me some slack. Crap, and I don't blame you because me and you just bust chops a little bit back and forth. But you remember when I put out there on Twitter, I was like, does anybody have an extra copy of Destiny 2 laid around for PS4? Because I knew it was coming with an exclusive strike. I wouldn't mind starting a new character over on there and playing through because, here's the thing. When it comes down to it, Crap, okay, if there's 2 bakeries next to each other, they're both selling apple pie, but the other one's going to give you whipped cream and a scoop of ice cream for the same money, you know where you're going. This is just business, folks. Go ahead, Crap. I apologize for interrupting.
No, you know what? You're right. I was just going to say, I've had this conversation with Phil Spencer, and you know that I have. So I told Phil, like, you know what? I respect your stance that you don't want to keep content or exclusive content away from gamers. But the problem is your gamers, the Xbox gamers, are getting the short end of the stick because you do this, because you won't pay to get these or whatever, and Sony will. So Sony gets all the time content, and he's like, I know his idea is, well, we've got the best place to play these games. The problem is if people have both an Xbox and a PlayStation, they're going to go, even though the Xbox One X is going to play these games better, a lot of times they're going to go where the extra content is. Yeah. Right. Even Mooch. You were on
Xbox. No, my bad. I already invested on the Xbox, so I'm not going to go back and buy the original game and then get the expansions and stuff like that on PS4. The only thing that's like kind of disappointing to me is that it's the only strike. You see what I'm saying? So but at the end of the day, strikes they rotate. Every time you go into it, it's a new strike. It's a new strike. It's a new strike. So to me, it's not that big of a deal. Like I said, it's a little disappointing because it's the only new one. but everything else is pretty much the same. So you're still on Xbox. You're still getting a great experience compared to the other expansions.
Finish your thought though. You were saying what we were discussing with future issues that may.
Yeah, we were saying like if Red Dead 2 happens to have exclusive content on PlayStation 4, we might get it on the Pro.
Yeah, because to be honest with you, and listen, that breaks my heart to say that, you know, because I prefer playing on the preferred. We all have a preferred console. I like having my achievements. I like the controller. I like the playthrough. I like the community that we have built on the Xbox. I like that. But in all honesty, especially Red Dead, that's a single player game. Yeah. So if I'm going to get more missions or something that I can do, listen, if it's just a different, you know, it's not John Marston, but if it's just a cowboy hat, no, I'm not going to go buy the Pro one. But I'm talking about if there's like 2-3 different missions, maybe I would consider it. And listen, the only way, you know, we always say this, right? Even Xbox guys, we all say this, vote with your wallet. It's the only way to let them know. It's the only way to let them know. So if all of a sudden Xbox is like, that's funny. We thought we would at least, you know, get this percentage and we're down 5-6%. Well, that's because you're not buying any content. Oh, that could be it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you have to actually do that. And I don't understand how else to get it through their heads. So when I see people upset, you are right to be upset that you're an Xbox fan, you paid the same amount as a PlayStation person, and they're getting more content. But here's the thing. PlayStation's whole thing that they blew up last year, and they blew up in 2014, if I believe that's when the first Destiny came out, is they said the place to play Destiny is on the PlayStation. And they went ahead and fulfilled that they clarified it and fulfilled it.
You know, guys, I like where Phil Spencer head is at, but I got to agree with you guys at the end of the day, because if your competition, if you're like, you know, we're not going to do that or whatever, it leaves the stake to the wolves, basically. Like,
well, look, exactly. by not paying for content, under the guise of I'm not going to lock up content from other people who play on different platforms or whatever the case may be, you're basically locking content out from your own buyers, from people who buy your content.
I always say that, and it's like, and I know people are like, oh, well, you're just down on Xbox. I'm not, right? Like, I like Xbox. I think they're doing a lot of good things right now, especially the stuff that's come out recently. I just also feel like they're a reverse of what Sony did, but they're not doing the things that Sony did to put them on top, right? And so I mentioned this off air, which was when Sony started off this generation, they're where Xbox is right now for whatever reason. Sony started off this generation getting their butt whooped last gen. I know people go, oh, well, they almost tied it at the end there or whatever. Bottom line is Sony lost so much money on the PlayStation 3 that it's not even – and not only did they lose money, they lost mind share, they lost market share, they lost a lot of things. So they were the biggest loser regardless of sales at the end of the generation. So they limp into this generation, right? And their launch games are Knack and Killzone Shadowfall, which is a AAA game, but just a horrible game. Knack, like a double A game. And what was that space shooter, Mooch? I forget what the hell it's called. Resogun. Resogun, right? Yeah, so those are their big games.
Is fun though, man.
Well, I mean, I want to say shout out to Salty. Salty in the chat, he says Xbox is going to have a lot of marketing deals at C3. Salty, listen, I felt for that too before. It's not about the marketing deals anymore. The marketing deal just means that they have the Xbox logo show up at the end of the commercial that they no longer put on television. Yeah. So that doesn't really matter. This is a discussion based upon exclusive content. And it's like I said, I don't know if Salty heard this, but Salty, you walk into a bakery and you're buying an apple pie. Like I said, all of a sudden the same pie, same everything is $10, and the other one's going to give you free ice cream and free whipped cream when you leave. It's just a no-brainer. It's not just about marketing deals anymore. It's about exclusive content deals. And Microsoft's got to step up to the plate if they want to compete, or forget compete. They don't want to compete if they just want to retain their customers.
There's a couple things they're missing, right? Like, it's leaving the impression that this is the place to play, right? So putting a splash screen at the end with the Xbox logo doesn't do anything. It doesn't do anything at all. Matter of fact, people start questioning, oh, was that Xbox? Like, it's over so quick, people don't even associate with the platform. The other issue they primarily have is I don't like exclusive content deals either. I personally don't. Yeah. But I do understand the value of them and way it makes your customers treated like they're a priority on your platform. And that's what it ultimately comes right down to. It is you kind of have the cat's out of the bag. I think I mentioned this before. It's Pandora's box. It's been open. You can't put it back in.
Yeah.
Right. So once it's happened, there's nothing you can do about it. So they kind of have to play that game or have to play a different version. Now, if they didn't do the marketing deals on the exclusive content side of things, and we got more AAA games or quadruple A games, as the joke goes, then I think there's a valid argument where people would say, okay, well, at least I'm getting this on this platform that's something special and makes me feel good as a customer. But as it stands right now, the customer base doesn't feel like they're getting that.
Well, Don, can I
dark.
just piggyback to your point? And I want to say this to the chat as well. Guys, listen to this. Netflix, and I'm going to get these three confused in what they offered. But T-Mobile offered like Netflix. Verizon got Hulu, and AT&T was giving their customers unlimited amounts of whatever the other third one was, their HBO Go. My point being is that it's what Don just said. You've got to give something to your customers so they feel like if Verizon says, hey, come buy our phones, and when you're with us and you piggyback everything with us, we'll give you Netflix free, included in your mobile device. Well, if you're an AT&T guy, you're like, hey, AT&T, what are we getting? Nothing, but we love you.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm going to Verizon. You know? Did we lose crap?
I think we did.
All right. Well, you know what I mean? And Don, that's why your point is got to be like emphasized, because you're making a good point. And all I'm speaking, I'm taking the gaming part out of this. I'm just talking about consumer friendly. And at this point in time, I don't feel like I'm a huge Destiny fan. I like Destiny. That doesn't mean I have 7,000 hours and an Xbox probably got more time than me in it, but I like the game. And I will tell you, as being an Xbox fan and not being able to have that extra content, the Xbox, how do you feel? I mean, you do feel a little slighted.
Yeah, like I said, I feel slightly slighted just because it's the only new strike. If they had like a couple new strikes there and then one of them was exclusive to the PS4, I really wouldn't think it was that big of a deal. But since it's the only new one, yeah, I feel a little disappointed. But you know, I do realize there is a lot of other content in this expansion. Like I said before, I already, you know, invested in this game on this platform. I'm not going to go and buy it on another one and build up all the way again from nothing. But yeah, it's slightly disappointing, man. I can't lie.
I'll be honest. When I played the first Destiny, and I played a lot of the first Destiny, there was the same practice, right? Like there was the strike that was exclusive, and then when we finally got that strike on Xbox, it was irrelevant because we weren't able to cycle through like leveling up with using that strike is kind of my main way. But once we got the strike, I'm like, this strike wasn't good. So my question, and I don't know for a fact or not, is the strike any good on the PlayStation side of things?
At this point, Don, that's it's not actually that part. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If you're standing in line, no, it doesn't, because if you're standing next to me in line and we're both going to get like a hard scooped ice cream, and I walk away and you get the third scoop on top, it could be peanut butter molasses with a splash of Italian sauce on it. The fact is you got more than I did and I paid the same amount. We'll talk about the flavor later on.
Well, so, I get that argument, but it almost spoiled the experience when they added that strike into the rotation. For me personally, I can only speak for me, right?
Right.
When they add the rotation, and I'm like, oh, can you please take that back out? Like I wanted it out. Like I literally would abandon the strike every time that strike would come out. So that's my question. Is, you know, are they even
let me answer this one guy,
because
he's not understanding. He says, you know, World Cup Z86. He says with the food industry isn't the same, and he says, Mooch, you were saying this business is not like any other. So are you contradicting? No, as a matter of fact, again, it follows what I'm saying. The WR Cup. What I'm trying to say to you is that in other businesses, like I said with Verizon and T-Mobile and AT&T, when one company offered an exclusive thing like Hulu monthly free on your phone, the other two stepped up and got HBO Go and Netflix. Here you've got Sony doing it time and time again this generation, and Microsoft's not stepping up. So it's not like other industries again. You know, it's not. And you have Phil that came out and said when he first took over, I don't want my gamers on my platform. I believe he said feeling like second-class gamers or something like that, or something. But the thing is, though, he said that, and then there's been no action to like make us not feel like that. And I know he was referring to indies back then, but even the indies We're still getting indies 6 months to a year later. I mean, it's just, and we were supposed to get them with some added content to them, and that rarely happens anymore. So, you know, listen, it depends on how you want to look at this. You stop and you start scratching your head when all of these things kind of come down the pipe, and you wonder, what's Xbox doing for their consumer except saying wait till E3, and then we leave E3 and we're like, well, we should probably wait till the next E3.
You know, it's funny because when you look at this kind of like exclusive content or timed exclusive content, I remember on the 360 era, you know, so many people would bitch about Call of Duty having maps like 3 months early or something like that. And now we're talking about a year. There's got to be kind of like a limit here. If it was only 3 months and then this strike or whatever content would come over to the multiple platforms and stuff like that, I don't think people would have such a big deal, you know, going on here. But this is like a year going on. That's kind of crazy. Like Don said, it makes it when it does come to the platform, it's pretty much irrelevant by then, you know?
Yeah, like I didn't care when that time come because I already burnt myself out on the game and recycled through the strikes. Now, you know, it would have been even a different story if it was a good strike on top of that. That would have hurt even more, right? As a consumer. But
yeah,
it's one of those things like they have to play ball. Like they have to do everything. And this is what I mentioned. It's not this or this. You have to do it all, right? You have to have the big budget studios. You have to have the indies. You have to have stuff coming to your product first as a default for developers, right? It may not be exclusive, but it's like default exclusive. You know what I mean? Yeah. You have to have exclusive deals, and you have to have marketing deals. And I'm saying this, and I don't like marketing deals because I know where that money can go. It could go to other things, but the reality is you have to balance that. It's all part of the recipe. It's like making chocolate chip cookies without the chocolate chips.
Yeah, but you can't. Right? You're not liking that, Don, is saying I don't like the Steph Curry just got an Adidas deal. You know, it's like that's part of the business now, man. Yeah, that's the way it is.
Yeah, well, that's just part of being part of adult.
So I can't get upset. Right? Exactly, and that's my point. So it's like
I can't. Steph Curry signed with Adidas?
No, I don't know who he's with. But my point being is like I just can't. I can't at this point sit here and get upset with the business aspect of it. When you've got a developer, okay, in Bungie or Activision, if you want to talk about the publisher side of it, and then you've got two, in this case, platforms, because Destiny's not coming to the Switch. You've got two platforms, and only one's playing ball. It's the way it is. It's just the way it is. You know, it's like having a team that shows up and they're almost forfeiting. I mean, they're not doing anything. And that's where I'm saying. So when people go, you know, the heck with it, it's Bungie's fault. I go, if that was you and that was your company and somebody knocked on the door and said, I'm going to give you more money for more content, I just don't know anyone in America, anyone that would turn it down.
It's like that do something meme where the guy with the stick and he's poking stuff and he's like, do something, right? Like, that's what you want Microsoft to do. And as fans, that's what we should want them to do. When Sony had no games and very little, anything at the beginning of the gen, they said, we have the best hardware, so we play multiplats best, just like the Xbox One X. They had indies, just like Microsoft pushes now, and they had these kind of AA mid-budget games, kind of like what Microsoft has now, right? The difference is, to also make up for this, Sony was like, hey, let's go get map packs for Call of Duty. Let's go get Destiny DLC. Let's go get Watch Dogs exclusive content. Let's go get everything, every kind of exclusive content.
Everything.
Yeah, because even though we don't have a bunch of exclusives right now, we can make our gamers feel special. And that's basically what happened.
Yo, check this out, guys.
Who the hell is still playing Destiny for the love of
baby?
In the room. Talking about Destiny, I mean, I come in 20 minutes late and we're talking about that foul piece of vomit. Come on.
Well, I mean, we have other stuff to talk about too, but we're just talking about how.
Can I just say something real quick on this whole Destiny thing before we round it off? I'm hearing everybody talking about this, and this is just kind of like proving my point of what Xbox tried to do this entire generation. Because you were talking about what Sony was promoting in the beginning of this generation, talking about, this is where we play the multiplats better. This is, we have indies here. There's people saying, yeah, indies sell consoles and stuff like that. So all of a sudden, on the Xbox side of things, where people started going, yeah, we want more indies, and oh yeah, we want you know, stuff when it comes to multiplats and stuff. So now you have it with the X, where this is the best place for multiplats and everything like that. What's the narrative now? Is, oh, we want single player experiences, or the community changes like the wind. And
well, here's the thing: is the recipe is there, but I mean, so you have to use all the same ingredients, but you don't have to do the same recipe. You get where I'm saying with that? You don't have to invest as much in one particular area, but you still have to invest in those areas. You may have a different vision, but you have to use all the ingredients.
Well, let me answer Xbox. Think of the game domination, okay? When we're playing A, B, and C. Listen, you have to strategically have your team cover all 3 zones. What you're saying, the problem is that, yeah, okay, so Xbox is going, and they had A. They were the ones doing last generation, the whole, like, exclusive content and the map packs and everything. And then they're like, nah, we're going to let that one go. Let's go to B, everybody. Everybody go to B. Everybody go to B.
Even
and then they're like, you lost A and C.
You community said that. You know, when it came to Call of Duty, they're like, oh, yeah, we don't need, you know, exclusivity when it comes to maps and stuff like that.
I didn't say that. I was giddy as hell.
Hey, right, let me pay the bills real quick. To Demon, he donated to the chat. Thank you. He says Bleed Green. E3 2018 awaits. So appreciate it, Don, for putting that up, because I missed it when I lagged out. But yeah, you know what? Hit that like button while we're at it. Over 500 watching, less than 100 likes. Let's do that. Let's get
I was looking at that, man. I was like, damn, that is that is such a discrepancy right there, dude.
It is. It's crazy. But yeah, I agree. Like when you have nothing, get something for your fans. You know, fans.
It's not necessarily that people are changing their marks, or that the crowd is changing what they want. It's the problem is that you really need like this is the Dom was saying, you need everything. Yeah. Like whether or not you're invested all in on one side, you can't just be invested all in on one side.
I just feel that when it comes to Xbox, like they've tried to like let the community kind of like push it forward after the whole 180 thing at the beginning of this generation. They're like, oh, we're listening to you guys, and all of a sudden it's like, well, yeah, we want more indies like PS4. So they're like, all right, and you start seeing more indies roll out and stuff like that.
Yeah, but people didn't say we got all indies. So that's basically what we got at this point.
Xbox, they're playing catch up. They're constantly playing catch up.
That's why I say they should have a direction and then let the customer feedback, as long as it coincides with the direction that they're going in. You know, do as much as possible in that end. But when you don't have a direction and you're trying to listen to a mass number of people, you're going to get stretched in so many different areas. You're not going to be able to do everything. People are going to be critiquing you constantly, criticizing you constantly, and you're never going to do anything.
It does seem like Microsoft is playing catch up, but to their credit, it looks like they are hiring for new studios. This is interesting. They came out, I think, last night. Microsoft recruiting for a new studio in your favorite place, MOH, California. Actually, it's weird because it reads like they're recruiting for people from possibly multiple studios or something. I don't, it's very interesting. I mean, here's the thing: any studios that they build right now aren't going to be much a help for years to come, which is fine, because
you probably won't see a game from one of those any studios here if they've opened the doors 6 months from now on this current hardware.
Yeah, so I mean, like what's your guys' thoughts on this? I mean, it's obviously a good thing. In my opinion, they need probably 5-6 studios, but it's still a good thing to see their quadruple A, or could be a typo, right, Don? I don't know.
Yeah,
I never heard of.
I don't know if I'm qualified to work at a quadruple A.
Yeah, quadruple A. They're gonna put
maybe triple A, but not quadruple. That's
right. Like what makes a game quadruple A? I was like having that talk earlier because I saw that. Like, you know what? The same thing. Oddly enough, Don, was in the Black Tusk Studios thing when they were looking for. They were like, we're gonna build a quadruple A game in the vein of Halo and Gears. We're gonna build the next big Xbox exclusive.
Quadruple A means they hired 4 times as many assholes.
Oh, come on. Well, here's the thing. There's not a lot of, I don't think, pure like big time talent left, right? I mean,
well, let's say this: if you were Phil and you didn't want to show your aggressive side, but be very aggressive,
yeah,
would you open your studio right next to someone else's very prominent studio and their core talent, and try to not necessarily directly recruit, because you're not legally allowed to do that, but you open your doors to them? That's how you approach it. So when people think Phil doesn't got to fight, he holds his tongue back, right? This sort of move is probably the most aggressive studio move I've ever seen Microsoft do.
Yeah.
This is actually more aggressive than acquiring Bungie in my view, is because they're fully confident, they're ready to go full in. Now, doesn't right the wrongs of the past or anything like that, but what it does do is you have a AAA studio that just finished a huge project, right?
Yeah.
And those people, some of those people are burnt out. Some of those people wanted to do, some people may have been frustrated at the studio, that sort of thing. And this is an opportunity, and this is out because they can still work on AAA quality level stuff, and they're able to, migrate over there. Now, this is how, if you look at the game industry as a whole, this is kind of how it happens. You see these like little pockets, these little hubs, where you see like a lot of studios kind of in one area. And usually that's because certain people are not happy with that studio or whatever, and they kind of start their own thing, but they don't move out of town.
Yeah.
And so then they get bought out by.
So wait, this new studio is opening up next to who?
Sony Santa Monica Studios, the God of War developer.
Yeah, Don. Well, listen, Don. That's an old pizza trick. Okay, you had a successful pizzeria downtown. What do you do? People are like, why would you open up a pizzeria next to a successful pizzeria? Because when the line's too long over there, you just get the backdraft in over there. I get what you're saying, but ultimately they keep going back to where the sauce is right. So listen, Mimir, goddamn you! By the way, I looked up Mimir on eBay. It's $50. I was like, "Fuck you, Mimir." But listen, I'm not paying $50 for that. But listen, here's my whole thing. So, anyways, Don, I know what you're saying, and it's aggressive, but realistically, they've got the trophies. They're going to bring home so many trophies over there at Sony Santa Monica. It's hard to say I'm just going to go over there now where this team is completely and utterly unproven. So I'm not really buying that.
To counter your point, major key staff have left that studio in the past to go work for Microsoft. So
wait, who?
Major key staff from that studio has left that studio to go work at Microsoft in the past. So moving across the street is a lot easier than moving all the way up to Washington.
That is extremely true. Don't get me wrong. Your geographic description is spot on, but realistically, it doesn't mean that they're good. And some people will go over, some people won't. And I mean, the thing about it is, I'm not. Look, here's the thing. The problem I have ultimately when it comes down to that, Don, and you know this. I don't know where you work as far as your boss, but when shit, like you look at the way certain organizations are running sports and this and that, and if you go, wow, that owner of that team is a real hard ass. That's why those guys have rings. And I think Phil is not hard on them enough. And he doesn't, or not Phil, maybe Matt Booty's got to do it. Maybe Matt is going to crack the whip. I don't know. That's yet to be found. And I hope he does. But I mean, somebody over there has got to be tough enough to say, this is what we want. We're going to let you guys, the developers, expand your minds, be artistic, but it's got to be done in 4 years, and it's got to be a quality product. Other than that, we're going to take care of you. And I will be checking on you periodically, see how you're doing your progression. And then you have to be a hard ass. You can't be over there and be like, hey, everybody, we brought 75 lattes and donuts for everybody. Everybody come on. They show these pictures at all these places over there. I'm sorry. They're all eating and hanging out and going to movies together on Fridays. Like, we got to go to work, okay? And then go to movies and eat donuts on their own time.
Why can't we just look at this for the good news that it is and pick it apart like it's a freaking extra crispy chicken wing at KFC? Like, they're doing exactly what, people in the community have said. They want more studios and stuff like that. And for the people out there on social media saying, well, what good's that going to do unless they come out with a game this year?
You're right, Xbot.
I'm like,
Xbot, you make a good point, but the frustration I have is down the road. I'm not looking at now. I think that is the right move. Of course, you have to open up more studios. The thing is, though, just in, they need like 8 more studios. So the problem is,
here's the thing. Go ahead. I was just going to say that this looks like they're hiring for multiple studios. And I also want to point out that, hey, Don, is this a real feasible thing, right? So say they have somebody at 343 who gets burnt out at working at 343. Could they shift that person possibly over to this new studio to work?
Yeah, well, they can definitely apply to the new studio. I know. So that's the whole thing. I think a lot of people that were hired, like this big hiring spree you're seeing a lot. Yeah. I would say especially at 343, and I can't totally speak for what their actual plan is, but
who knows? But we know we haven't heard anything about no Halo lately.
Yeah, but what you're able to do is you're able to hire talent. You're able to get the talent started, right? You're not waiting until for them to break ground on the new building, right?
Yeah.
You're able to get things going with the intent, obviously, that this is where they're going to end up at. So yeah, they get hired under the 343, and they're working under that environment. But I think the long-term goal is to move a lot of that staff over there, and I think they understand that. No one's going to publicly come out and say it or anything like that. You're going to find out about it later. So, and Rand's heard about it for the last 7 months. I've heard about it the last year and a half. They've been aggressively hiring everywhere, right? So the question is, are they just doubling up the existing studios and literally making twice the Goliath that they currently are?
Well, what I'm interested, Don, is I want to
move that staff over to.
I want an update from you. I want an update from you, Don, in the future. You're not going to have it today. No, I do. I want an update from him so that when we find out they are doing this mass hiring, are they getting some of the creme de la creme? Because let me tell you something. One thing that we all fell for is when Naughty Dog was letting people go left and right, which they were, excuse me, in terms of the public, they just kind of resigned. Okay, but whatever. Okay, when they were let go, we were like, "Oh my God, they're losing this director and this director." Nothing to see here. But here's the thing: after they lost all those people, they put out Uncharted 4, and they're gonna have The Last of Us 2 coming out. So the point of the matter is that Microsoft might be getting a lot of people, but they might be getting a lot of table scraps. Well, what I want to know is who are they getting, and that's what I'm interested in on the follow-up.
But see, also here's the thing though, like you know names within game development and stuff like that, but there are up and comers as well that we won't know either.
Absolutely.
I
said that last week, Xbot.
I said that you get the rookie of the year.
Yeah, you recruit the rookies. That's why I said come get them out of school fresh. The kids that are the hot shots, have scouts at the big universities that are doing software engineer. I agree.
But not only that, with the idea Xbox being so generous to indie developers and stuff like that, don't you think that they have kind of like a highway to the newer talent when it comes to a program like that, and have them?
Xbox, I'm going to answer you the same way I've been answering the last 4 years. You would think so.
I mean, right? That's just common sense to me right there. If they're opening a new studio, go over to the idea Xbox and be like, "Oh, guys, that game's looking great."
Microsoft at one point used to be really good at picking top tiers.
Yeah, they used to. I mean, if you look at it, they've had a little bit of a letdown this generation, but I'm excited by this move. Here's the thing: they've got to have other plays in the playbook, right? This is the long game. Right,
well, the playbook is more people eating ham sandwiches while playing.
Yeah, I mean, I get that, right? They're like all about that, and that does kind of suck when everybody wants to, just kind of have a number.
No, just shut up, sit down, eat your ham sandwich while you play Xbox.
Well, I mean, look, I get.
Why's it gotta be ham, man?
That's their metrics. Don't blame him. Yeah,
that's what they're measuring. They're not measuring other types of sandwiches.
I don't know. Pickle sandwiches don't go down so good.
Yeah, well, you.
Noob's like, can I make a bacon sandwich over here?
That's funny.
Look, they gotta get studios. Everybody knows that. We know what Turntana is doing. We know what the coalition's doing. We pretty much know what 343's got up their sleeve. If I had the money and the resources to do a studio, I make a big studio and split them in two. And what I do is I give one half the studio 3 years to work on, say, an established franchise. I'd give the other guys a couple of years to build their own, and then I'd flip-flop them. So when they're done building, they can go back and work on an established franchise, and then the other guys can take a turn building a new IP. So that way it keeps the creators engaged and invested, and they don't feel like they're just stuck doing one franchise for the next 20 years.
We all know this is a move for next generation.
Yeah,
right?
like here's the thing.
That's even what I said. Even if that studio opened up 6 months from now, there ain't no games coming out of there that's gonna be on.
Now here's the thing. Give this studio time to work out something fresh and new, and you know what I mean, like that. That doesn't necessarily mean it has to take 5 years. If they can use something like Unreal Engine 4, which looks great, if you don't have to build your own engine from the ground up, you can do stuff rather quickly. I don't want them to cut corners or anything, but you could realistically see something in 4 years, 3-4 years, and I think that's feasible.
AAA studios also hire big, and like back to the whole Naughty Dog thing, like that's part of it. Like they're hitting a deadline, so they hire a lot more people than they actually need, but they're under the knife, right? So
yeah,
they have to get it done. So they're like, okay, well, cuts into our profits, but we got to get this done, so we'll hire a bunch more people. So they can throw talent at it, and there's some people that's what they do in the industry. they're just guns for hire, and they get paid top dollar, and they're happy to take another 4 or 5 month vacation and then come back to work and kick ass essentially. So
yeah.
So I mean, you never know exactly what that number means when you're looking at staff. It's very interesting.
Yeah, and Donna, here's the thing that I also think. I think that they've got deals in place. I think that I'm not exactly sure what the deal is with Halo. Like, honestly, I'm kind of worried about that. But for me personally, I think that they've got a good idea going ahead. They finally got we don't know. We can only speculate and know rumors, and who knows if those are true when it comes to what was going on behind the scenes with Terry Myerson, who was apparently blocking a lot of the stuff that Microsoft needed to do, basically kind of just, saying, hey, you can't advertise, you can't do this, you can't get that time content, you got to cut this. Like, I'd even heard rumors, and maybe you'd heard something similar, Don, that at one point it was, you guys can make the Xbox One X, or you can get Scalebound out. Right, because Scalebound was up to some incredible number, like 75 million. This is a rumor, by the way, not fact.
I heard a certain. Well, it was more along the lines: you have this much to spend, you decide what you want to do.
Exactly, and so they went with the X.
And I've also heard when the decision was made, it was still questioned.
Well, and if you look at the reaction of Scalebound, when they showed it, I believe it was at the European Game Conference.
Gamescom.
Dude, so many people tried to throw it under the bus, and then as soon as it got canceled, they're like, "Oh, that was the one game I was waiting for." It's like,
that was the game I was going to get an Xbox for, right? Like, they weren't going to do that.
Yeah, but they were throwing it under the bus when they actually showed it. So, like, if you were working for Xbox and you had to make that decision, you saw what the gamers were saying about the game. I mean, what would you do?
Yeah, honestly, like, if rumors are to be believed, between Scalebound and Fable Legends, you're talking at $150 million or so, right? Like, combined.
That's a lot of money.
That's dead money. So, even though people want to talk profits, like, I don't particularly care about the profits since I'm not a stockholder, but that's dead money that counts against them. You know what I mean? So now that stuff is cleared, of course they're going to be able to make more money, and Minecraft is profitable, and they've got all this kind of stuff going on.
That's why Microsoft bought Minecraft to be a bit of a flotation device, honestly.
Yeah, and it's worked pretty well. And I think now, for me, I bought the Xbox One X knowing that it was most likely just going to be a place to play Halo, Gears, and Forza, and the multiplat's best right now. I figured that anything else would probably be next gen.
I bought it just because I like the best tech.
Yeah, exactly.
I honestly feel there's going to be something, that just is my instinct. Like, there's a reason why they went radio silent, and usually it's a three-year span until you get something. So that means they're kind of due this E3, and I think this is the reason why they kind of turn everything around. Now, I don't know what that entails. I don't know if it's recycled older IP brought to a new IP entirely, or just the IPs that we already like, just taken to
20 remasters,
take it next level. But things are moving, things are happening. They're very aggressive on their hiring. They are looking for talent across the board. That I can 100% confirm. And they're not only looking for people that are talented in very specialized fields, but also have like a diversity as well, right? They can be willing to work on multiple different projects. So they have a big plan for their studios.
But Don, everything you just said sounded like a help wanted ad. Like, that's all you just you just read a help wanted ad. You're like, they're looking for a talented, young-looking, fresh thought individual that is looking forward to programming long nights and into weekends and caring and loving his fellow brethren.
They've been looking for this for a while.
Right, that's why it's hard to get excited, because it's like they've been looking for it for a while, and we've gotten bupkis.
That's why you should be excited, because they have been a while. If they were looking just yesterday, that's when you shouldn't be excited. It's like being shown a Kojima game, yesterday, and expected it to be out that year. It's not going to happen.
Hey, right? that's a good point too, Don, because I was going to bring this up, right? Like, I know there's a lot of PlayStation fans and even Xbox fans that are like, well, why should we be happy about this? Well, look, Sony fans were excited the minute Kojima was like, I've got a new studio, I'm making this game, right? And that game was, 4 or 5 years away from being made. So they were able to be excited about that. I don't see why Xbox fans shouldn't be able to be excited about this as well. Yeah, I am.
It's still something that's coming out on the horizon, whether or not it's 4 or 5 years from now, right? Like, it's not like they're sitting there promising a it's not like this is a promise of a specific game or even a specific type of game. It's just new things coming.
I can use my forethought and think that this game is going to have some kind of multiplayer. I'm just saying, right? I mean, what do you think? I sense multiplayer, but I sense single player too. But some kind of multiplayer. That seems to be.
How dare you talk that trash? Single player and multiplayer?
Yeah, I know that's weird. That is weird, but I mean, I do see that. I see that completely happening, and you know what? That's smart because if you look at what made Xbox to begin with, that Halo 2, right, where you get that multiplayer. Xbox 360 had Gears of War with that multiplayer and the single player. Some people like the single player, some people like the multiplayer, but still.
Well, the thing is that even outside of the shooters, right? Like the games, almost all those 360 games had some kind of multiplayer aspect, right? Like Fable 2, you can play online basically through the whole game with somebody else.
Yeah, I can imagine that the new Fable is going to have some kind of co-op as well.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
They better still have where you can bring people together, start a family, all that craziness that they had in Fable 3, man. That was a high point in that.
I'm sure it's going to be very Fable-esque, which, you know, good for them. I think that's going to be great. Also, Microsoft has a new studio just for Avatar stuff, guys. I know probably.
Hey, you know,
they're gonna pump out games for your Avatar. I'm down with that, man.
Some of those Avatar games are actually kind of fun. So I mean, I'm not.
Here's the thing: I expected this to get a lot of hate, but most people were like, "Hey, that's pretty cool, man. Hopefully, they do 1 versus 100 again, or you know, something."
There was a lot of cool stuff on there. I liked customizing my avatar and everything on the.
I did too. I don't.
It's not a soapbox game, right? It's not something you stand on the soapbox and say, "Hey, look what I got." But it is something fun to do for those.
I mean, some of those games are good to kill 15, 20 minutes here and there if you didn't have time to sit and play like a super serious game.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, crap. Brian Corlsman makes a hell of a point.
He says there are a lot of great software engineers out there. Finding a great creative directors and artistic talent is what they really need.
Yeah, because a lot of times when you look at God of War, you look at The Last of Us, you look at Uncharted, and everyone's like, "Wow, it looks so great. The color, the detail, like it looks so good."
Yeah,
and
that's
you're
all.
Like,
that's all
the
your
artist,
and graphics design and everything.
They hold on to those people like grim death. Like that's like
software developers and coders and that sort of thing. I mean, and engineers. I mean, honestly, kind of a dime a dozen.
Yeah, I would say out of the folks that we're talking about, I agree with Hellhammer. There's a lot more of them graduating from all over the world, and someone who's actually really, really good at like taking nowadays a digital Bob Ross pen and drawing is difficult.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying, right? Like with software engineering and that sort of thing, it's kind of one of those things where not to downplay it, right? Because it's difficult and it's hard to learn. And it's even harder to master. But it's still something that with practice and time you can become excellent at it with. You know.
There's a clear path when you're a software engineer. There's not a clear path when you're an artist.
Exactly.
There's not a clear path. Like you go to school and like, yeah, cool, you got a degree, but it doesn't mean crap as far as the industry is concerned. So, and then you have to get the right person to take a chance on you, right? And a lot of those don't pan out. So you're right; those are very hard positions to fill. Out there, but I mean, it totally can be done. You know, I think it comes down to Microsoft. We're just hearing about this stuff now. Like, you guys got to keep in mind, like when this stuff starts to hit the boiling point, like when you guys get the information, this stuff has been you always have to keep in mind this stuff has been in the works longer than you realize. Yeah. So, like when people look at this studio opening it up, they're like, well, I'm glad we complained about it in the last month and a half, because now they're opening a new studio.
Yeah, but it's been in line for a while.
This has nothing to do with them. They just happen to be complaining. This information happened to be leaking out. And it's the same thing with like anything that gets released at E3. They didn't magically hit a button. And like all this stuff is whatever they have coming to E3, it has been in the works for 3 or 4 years. So
right,
if it's something in line with what people are complaining about currently right now, it has no bearing on what their complaints are. So I want to praise people for that. So like when people start taking credit for, hey, it's because of this person or that person, we're now getting this stuff. No, that's not how that works.
Well, anything corporate, like major things like opening a studio or anything that costs a lot of money, like for developing a video game or whatever the case may be, that's all something that takes time and a lot of movement behind the scenes.
Yeah. Well, you know what? There was also the Canadian Walmart actually kind of had this lease this list.
Noof, what's going on, man?
Blame Canada, right?
our Walmart is troubling up soccer games. I'm pretty surprised they're actually leaking things.
Well, I mean, listen, I think some of the more like Rage 2, that was like nobody ever predicted that, right? Like Rage.
Well, that would be
2,
a cool game because Rage was an underrated game.
Yeah, but well, here's the thing, and then the Rage Twitter was like, "Hey, Walmart, you guys messed up. It should be like this, blah blah." So they really ran, and that the Rage Twitter hadn't tweeted in forever or whatever. So, and it's like an official thing. And Bethesda was like, "Dude," when the Rage tweeted, and you had Pete Hines kind of said, "This is why we can't have nice things." Not exactly, yeah, not exactly denying it or anything, just but some of the stuff like Just Cause 4. Obviously The Last of Us 2 is on there. There was also, let's see, Beyond Good and Evil 2. I don't know if this is all specifically stuff for this year. The only thing that kind of makes me wonder
is how they skipped the whole Forza.
Yeah, it says Forza Horizon 5, which we haven't even had 4 yet. So that's and the other thing is Gears of War 5, right? Now, this is very interesting to me because if you go back to the Gears cycle on the 360, there was like a 2-year cycle between the games, right? So possibly they could, but it seems like maybe that'd be a little bit rushed.
I mean, they already have the engine, and the engine now already run. They already have the engine set up now to take advantage of the X. I mean,
yeah, I mean,
they could tweak it out.
When did 4 come out?
2016.
4 was built really fast too, though.
Yeah,
like,
it was.
You look at the time they stopped working on what the other project was, and they basically got Rod in there, and they start staffing up like crazy. I was shocked the year that game came out. I honestly expected Gears 4
they built Gears
this year
Ultimate Edition from the ground up, and it was what, a year or two later, and then 4 was out. It's like, damn.
Yeah. Exactly. So I mean, it's
Well, what's the rumor though? It's not coming out this year,
dude. It's for this year.
No way.
If they had The Last of Us 2
way.
in that list, then it would be a mixture at best. Because
if anything,
The Last
crap,
of Us 2 is not coming out this year.
No, it's not. If anything, crap, it'll be the Gears spin-off you were talking about.
I mean, that's possible too.
Yeah.
Like,
it's a possibility of a couple different things if you really think about it, though, right? It could be a Gears spin-off. It could be another remaster of an older Gears game.
Well, here's the thing. Gears 2 is 10 years old this year.
Exactly.
Oh, there you go.
But they did also, I have to point out, they did do the 4K update to the backwards compatibility version.
That doesn't mean anything.
Get ready for Judgment Remastered, people.
We got a 4K update for the original Gears, and there's still the Ultimate Edition.
So the Marcus collection is what we're gonna get.
Yeah, the Marcus Phoenix. But look, I will point this out too, Mooch. Gears 1 came out in 2006.
Yes.
Gears 2 came out in 2008. Gears 3 came out in 2011. Right. So, and then Gears Judgment came out in 2013, 2 years later. So, it's not unheard of for them to get a game out in 2 years' time. I'm a little bit dubious on this, but it is interesting. Just for point of talking, you know what I mean? Like,
it's interesting because if you look at the staff over at Coalition is grown quite a bit in a short period of time, like right after Gears 4 was done.
Yeah.
And then you look at the communications with Rod overseas, over in Central Europe with I forget the company. I think Splash Damage.
Splash Damage, yeah.
Yeah. So and I've said this before. Like Splash Damage helped out a lot more on 4 than people realize, and I wonder if they're a big contributor.
I'll say the same thing. Me and Crap had this conversation a year ago. I'll say it again. There's no way they're going to use Gears is a great marketing piece, just like Halo. Everyone said last year we're going to say, oh, they're going to show Halo and we're going to get it in the fall. No, that's not going to happen. They're not going to do it. Now, if it's a spinoff, I stand corrected. But if it's the actual next in the successor lineup of Gears 5, there's no way Gears 5 is announced in June and comes out in, especially with this October. Are you crazy? It's suicide.
I'm going to say that this is most likely, if that list is to be believed, it's either that spinoff game, which I'm meh on, or it's like a Gears 2 anniversary remake. Yeah. And I'd be happy with a Gears 2 remake.
Well, the other thing too is that I'm looking forward to seeing the Coalition be creative And I love Gears. I really do. And I know you guys don't have to agree with me. I don't want anything drastic. I'm not asking for everyone to call to arms. No, just I was kind of hoping that Gears 5 would do something a little different than Gears 4, Gears 3, Gears 2, Gears 1. Just do something. Add a little something to it. Make it this. Dude, that's their job. That's not my job. My job is to buy it and play it. Okay? Their job is actually make it that I want to buy it. And to find out, it would be heartbreaking to find out in 2 years. Basically, if it was any of you guys that are holding on to that last part of your rosary, and you're like, let it come out this fall. If you want that, Gears 5 is just going to be. It should have been called Gears 4 Continued, or Gears 4 again. Like
Gears
it's
4.5.
Yeah, it's not going to be anything different. So
I mean, just like the other Gears. I mean, they'll all add some new weapons or whatever.
I want more than that. And I understand you guys don't. You guys just want another copy. That's fine. I want something else. So if I want Rod to come out on stage and show Gears 5 and be like, we'll let you know when that's coming out. Not now. Do what they do with Death Stranding. Do what they do with The Last of Us 2. Tease the shit out of it. Make E3 fun again. You know what I mean?
The main problem. Well, don't you think it'd be fun to go, hey, guess what? That's not all that we're going to have this year. You're also getting Gears 5.
No, because it's not Gears. It's Gears 4.5.
Well, I mean, you could make that argument that all the Gears are kind of like that, though. I mean,
exactly. That's why I'm kind of looking for a difference now.
I'm just saying, but like, if you're Microsoft, you're torn, right? Because you've got to have some games, right? Like you're getting tore up.
Yeah, but crap, you said it yourself when I said something like this, and you're like, yeah, fine, and put it out there, and it gets a 60 Metacritic. My whole point is, you can't have a Gears just go out there and be another carbon copy. It'll get dinged for being a carbon copy.
Well, it doesn't have to.
If it's ready,
in 2 years, they can add or change enough to make it different. But the problem is, too, is it's the same thing that goes with Halo, right?
Yeah.
You can only change so much on those games before
you say that, and then we just got done with Game of Our Existence coming out in the past 3 weeks with God of War.
Everything's going to be compared to God of War,
different. God of War is a single player experience. It's not multiplayer.
Yeah, I mean, look, here's the thing. Yeah, go ahead, Nuke.
The last thing Microsoft needs, though, is to rush any of their games and damage the franchise's reputation. They're already lagging behind. You know what I mean? Halo took a bit of a hit with 5. Gears of War has been sort of receiving that, it could have been better kind of thing. So the last thing we need is a Halo, Fable, or Gears coming out that is anything less than extraordinary.
Right.
I would rather wait 2 more years and make sure that the game knocks it out of the park. Try to rush it to get it out to please the fans who are wanting, because we got enough to play. I mean, sure, we'd love to have the games, but again, it's not just pleasing the fans. It's about the reputation of your franchises. They're at stake now, and Xbox needs to hit the home run with whatever they put out now.
I think you're right in the sense that Gears is not in the clear yet. Judgment still is a bad taste in people's mouths.
That's why they played it so safe with Gears 4.
Yeah, and I know better, but like when I started hearing all the earlier rumors about splash damage, like I started getting flashbacks to that game, and I'm like, oh no, don't do that. Don't go there with that game. So I hear where everyone's concerns are about, but you also got to keep in mind, you could have had staff already been working on the next Gears before Gears 4 was even done. So there's a lot of unknowns about it. I would say don't be reactionary until we actually see it. Would be my recommendation for people, because there's always more to the story, and if you drill down, then you'll find more, and then you'll probably won't be so reactionary to it. But they do have to do it right. They can't release another Judgment.
Yeah. Hey, I mean, to be honest, this E3, the thing I'm looking forward to the most is seeing Cyberpunk.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's going to look best on the X. So I think actually, Microsoft is going to be in a good spot.
Well, the way I understand it, at least the rumor I heard or I read somewhere, was that the CD Projekt Red had some kind of marketing deal with Microsoft for that.
Yeah, that's the rumor.
But is that a logo at the end of a commercial that's not on television?
Yeah, well, CD Projekt Red wouldn't do any kind of content anyway.
Yeah, there wouldn't be any content because they're not that type of company.
Bungie was married to Microsoft. If they could do it after that divorce, anybody will for the almighty dollar. I never understand when people say that.
Look into CD Projekt Red, and then I'm telling you, they will not do that.
You're looking at a company that when people were pirating their games, they were like, hey, don't risk your computer for this. If you can't afford it, message us and we'll give you a key on the PC to play it.
Yeah. I mean, those are if you ever look at the value you get in a physical release that they give you, like when I bought The Witcher 2 on 360, that was like this big old case that came with a big old map and a keychain. It was like they always give you more.
People can still get that on both sides and still have exclusive content on one.
They're a company that is driven by goodwill.
Yeah. They're not American.
Well, that's how that's how they earn their reputation, and that's how they've built up their business.
Yeah.
So
listen, that's fine. You guys sound like a bumper sticker. Listen, my whole thing is, if someone shows up with a briefcase full of cash, they're
a Polish company,
and you don't think that
they use money too, crap.
But you don't think that somebody probably hasn't already tried to come up to them to buy them out, right? Like EA was circling the waters to try to buy CD Projekt Red out, right? Mm-hmm. Their CEO didn't.
Everybody has a price. Everybody has a cost out here. Listen,
he paid the money back so that he could secure the company so that they wouldn't ruin his vision.
Yeah, listen, the same thing was said about what's his face with Minecraft. Where's he right now? Oh yeah, Tropical Island having a coconut rum drink. Listen, guys, listen, I'm not buying any of that. That's a bunch of hogwash.
They won't. Look, this is what they said. They will not. They refuse to do. Any
Kevin Durant said the same thing. Okay. How's Oklahoma City? Oh, it's right. He's not there. They all do. Come on. You guys just
a cringe somewhere, man.
It's true though. Like it's true. Like we all, like every athlete has said that. Every developer has said that. Every this and that person. It doesn't mean anything. Like all you have to do is flash a certain dollar amount and that changes. So my point is not Microsoft buys CD Projekt Red. Listen, you guys are going off the deep end with buying and circling the ocean and no. Listen, all I'm saying is they wanted a different, like, give me a couple of exclusive like missions. You know, it's not that big of a deal.
Like Vin Diesel, he said he'd never do another Fast and the Furious. Now we got 8 of them. Once his career started to go down the toilet, I better go back to my cash cow.
Well, hey, it always goes full circle.
The point that's probably being missed on that is that CD Projekt Red has such a like a goodwill built up with gamers like across the board that it wouldn't be worth it to them unless it was an extreme amount of cash. It wouldn't be worth it.
Yeah.
For them to waste their goodwill only on basically what would be their second large gate title.
Hey.
Some people would say in other businesses that would make sense, but this is the game business, so it doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah, well, there you go. I was just going to say that, Don. I was just going to say that, actually. I agree. No, in this business, it doesn't make sense. You walk in with a ton of cash, and they're like, "What is this? Get this off my desk. We're here to work, and we love working. Get out of here." All right, whatever. You know, it doesn't hold water. But these are the kind of moves, crap. You know, when you said we're in need of the games, so it's okay to have a Gears 5 come out. See, that's where I'm like, no, we are in need of the games. So put the briefcase on the table and get the missions so that CD Projekt Red's game is the must-play location for that game. And that game really could be one of the bigger. You know, Red Dead happens to trump it. But I mean, it could be one of the big contenders.
Well, one of the things that the problem is I feel like maybe some missions on a single player game aren't going to have as much sway as say map packs on. They could get Battlefield or Call of Duty.
Let me ask you this: what's the point if you don't advertise? That's where it's at.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I mean, you know, here's the thing.
So it goes full circle on everything, right?
Yeah. For me, I think that showing the games on that running on an X is key as well, and saying, "Hey, the only way you're going to get this game that looks like this is going to be on the X." So
they have been blocked about that for about a whole entire year, right? So
yeah,
I mean, that's they need to get that ball rolling, and it's a little too late. But
I was just going to say it's too little, too late already with that. They should have done that day one. They had, like I said, that's where this whole thing, something's just not adding up because the 4 years in development of this X. Okay, for the 3 years, however you want to look at the years when it was started. You're telling me nobody was like, "Hey, so here's the slogan, guys. Everybody get around. Everybody get around." The slogan is, "It looks better on the X." And then somebody was like, "What will look better on the X?" You're fired. Now everybody get back to your hardware stations. I don't understand how that's the same. And the same thing here. You have this fall coming up, and Don's right. It's a day late and a dollar short. I don't understand what they're doing over there. It's generally leadership issues. I don't know where it stems from. That's why I'm not downing these new studios that are open. I say bravo. I think they're 4 years too late, but I say bravo.
Hey, I want to send a shout out to Games and Dames. I guess he's watching. He just DM'd me with this article. with the coalition, and I'll send this to you too, Mooch. It's called "Making a Big Budget Video Game is Riskier and Harder Inside the AAA Machine with Gears of War 4," and they already talk about how Gears 5 was in pre-production before Gears 4 shipped. So
it's almost like I already knew that, huh?
Yeah. So I mean, I'm not saying that, I'm just saying like that could have been well in.
Oh, you guys don't know what that noise is? Oh, that's my cookie cutter. Slow it down, guys. Slow it down.
Slow it down. When it comes down to it,
we gotta get J-Dubs to design you a downer one because
it's not, dude. Oh, crap! You just said it yourselves. Before 4 came out, they had 5 going, and it's gonna come out in a week and a half. Come on.
No,
hold on, but think about it. Like with Gears 4, I had a lot of fun playing the story and everything like that. It looked great. It played great. But at the end of the day, you look at the enemies, you look at your characters and stuff like that. There wasn't a lot that steered away from Gears 1, 2, 3, in my opinion. So why wouldn't they?
What has steered away from like any Gears game that steered away from the other, right? Like that much.
Yeah, exactly. When
it had bots.
You're not looking for them to reinvent the wheel. You're looking for them to make another quality Gears game.
Here's the other thing. We wouldn't be doing all this speculation at all if they would just tell us what's coming down the road.
Hey, E3 is a month away, folks. We got it. We're
but
it.
Literally.
Who wants to know now? Okay?
We've been wanting to know for 4 years, XBot. We haven't known anything. Scalebound Fable was canceled, and then it's like, hold on to your hats. It's going to be bumpy.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's like I don't know. It's not the idea of actually straight Duval in the chat. He says Mooch negative on every topic. It's not negative, guys. It's what you've been thinking at home when you're playing the same game over and over again,
Mooch
and you just don't want to say it all the time.
Well, listen, I'm just saying I don't know. Like you don't have to reinvent the wheel as a Gears fan. You don't have to reinvent everything because when they did try to change it, we got Judgment, and that wasn't.
That's not them trying to change it. That was them not able to make it. They were doing something else. Or they were transition.
That studio, People Can Fly, wanted to change so much of it, and that's what kind of dissolved what that Gears game could have been, right? So, I think the most famous quote I've ever seen was Cliffy B was complaining about something about the latest Gears, and then Rod chimes in and he goes, "So it plays like Gears, right?" And his answer was, "Well, yeah, it does." He's like, "Then mission accomplished." Like, so yes, there are things they can do with the story, and I don't think just because I think Gears 4 is actually a good game, and I do
too.
Really
it is a good game. Should be a great game, but go ahead.
No, I think it's actually a great game.
Well, you said good.
Well,
he got you into the cross-examining, Don.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, if you loved it that, like, listen, you say things like me and XBot in the beginning of the show, we're like, we love Destiny, we said it, and then Don's like, well, it's good. And, I mean, great. I mean, it's kind of great.
When we get off,
I don't ever stand on that soapbox that high as you guys, right? I mean, that's just not how I am. I always see a flaw in all games. There's not a single game on the market I don't see a flaw in, right? So
that's true.
That's the curse and the bear, and I have to bear, but I did like Gears 4. I really did enjoy it.
I did too.
Yeah. One of my favorite games. Now, can they improve a little bit on the story? Sure. Can they take, new gun types? They could. Could they get more creative with the environments even more? Yes. Yeah. They can go much deeper into the game. But what I think they needed to do is Coalition is earn the trust of Gears fans again. And I think they've done that. So now those shackles are off. And those creative ideas, they can let those things flourish because, Rod. If I follow Rod, I think he's one of those people like I feel like I can learn a lot from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And one of the things Rod says, like, we have to figure out how first to make a proper Gears game before we can innovate.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so obviously it's in the back of his mind. It's the back of the mind of the staff that's there. So.
I agree, Don. I agree with Rod. I agree with what you just said. And that's why I've said what I've said all along. Gears 5 needs to innovate. And he just said it himself. So they will. But the only reason you hear me saying what I'm saying is when you have crap being like, I'm okay if Gears 5 comes out a week and a half after Gears 4. I'm not.
No, hold on. I'm just saying this is a rumor. If it's a good game, if it's good,
I'm reacting to the rumor as you are.
Yeah, I'm saying like, I mean, we don't know. I'm just saying if it's done I don't think an extra putting it off for an extra year is going to do anything. You know
No,
what I
it's
mean?
not, because that's what they envisioned. So if it's done, it's just going to be 4.5. So that's fine.
You just need to get the cookie cutter sound going.
Right.
Yeah, hold on, I got to pay some bills. Failed Pyromancer says Microsoft should bring a brand new IP multiplayer to really knock people's socks off.
That's true. That's a good point. That's what I'm looking forward to.
And it is. Look, they've got to do this. I think they're going to have games in between, but when I say games in between these, I mean like a Gears 5 and a Forza Horizon and a Halo 6 and a Dead Rising 5 and a this other
think
one.
They should continue Dead Rising then?
Really? I think I'm hearing that Dead Rising 5 is a thing.
Hope they go back to 3.
And it's supposed to go towards more 3.
Yeah, go back to 3.
Yeah, all right. Yeah.
You know what really hurt Dead Rising 4 was the multiplat aspect, right? Like they really took, like, remember the first one or third one where it was like they had the zombies no two looked alike, and it was like more of an open world, and you hopped in the car, like that was awesome. 4 I liked, but it was just, it didn't feel as big a budget.
It was fun, but it felt smaller, even though it might have been like bigger in terms of where you could run to. It felt smaller.
Yeah.
To me, man.
And here's the thing, right? Like I had heard this, and now this is a rumor, and you guys have probably seen this too, about Quantum Break too, right?
Yeah.
I kind of However, you didn't even give the game a chance. Come on.
I played that game for 4 hours. That game was awful, dude.
I liked it. The reason I'm just not overly hyped is I like it and I'm excited. That would make my E3. I would like a Quantum Break too. The thing about it is that I think that's completely a rumor. But
yeah, if they came out and announced Quantum Break 2, I'd just be like, well,
I don't think they're going to announce it this year, because the rumor is it's in pre-production.
Right.
Even start, and unless they do a Game Pass situation, because that is episodic, right? Like you do one thing and then you watch a video or whatever for, they could pull that off with Game Pass. I would prefer just a full complete game, but I can understand why they would maybe want to try out something episodically.
Well, and then Sam Lake has mentioned, and it's one thing to say it versus actually do it, right? But he says all the changes have been primarily done to the engine, so they're ready. If they ever got the green light, it wouldn't take nearly as long. They say he's approximately 2.5 years development time. Yeah, for what he has planned. So. And then there's other weird rumors. This is the most recent rumor of this, but there were other rumors of, and all those tweets got deleted, was the original actors from the game.
Yeah.
Talking about doing new shoots. And this was like a year ago.
Yeah.
So like there's validity to this. I just don't know when the timing is with the particular thing. And pre-production means so much. It could mean like literally no one has touched a single bit of code. And someone's just writing, Sam Lake's writing the storyline of what's going on. Or it could be like, hey, they already filmed, but, they can't pull people off this P7 game they're working on. Yeah. Or maybe the reason why they hire so much is to staff up to work on it. So there's a lot of unknowns about that, but I'm pretty sure that Quantum Break is in some sort of form or fashion coming around. So
I hope not.
And here's the thing, Don. You have... The one of the reasons why Quantum Break got bashed was because of
checkerboard 720p.
Yeah, this checkerboard 720p, right?
Oh, like that's less if that game was
I get that you don't like the game, whatever. Like there's tons of people that like the game. Okay, I like the game. I tremendously like the game. I think that they could do it right with a sequel.
Yeah.
With that being said, I've heard this rumor as well, and if you look at what Shannon Loftus, even though I'm not a big fan of hers, she even says there's still future stories to tell with Quantum Break and Recore. Now I've heard another one that's completely dead, which is Rise. I've heard that game is dead as a doornail, right? Like never going to happen. But I had heard
the issues with Crytek and everything like that. Yeah. I never expected a sequel to come from Rise.
Oddly enough, there's other rumors too. Maybe you heard something along this line too, Don, which was the two that weren't dead, besides from Recore, is Quantum Break and Sunset Overdrive isn't even dead.
Yes!
So
I think all that stuff is just penciled in. I don't think anything has been inked as far as Sunset Overdrive.
I think Quantum Break is moving on a little bit.
I think there is, because there's a lot of tech behind the scenes. They're even developing to help speed that process along. They have had partnerships with NVIDIA and some other things with cloud computing, which is up Microsoft's alley and all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of signs pointing to it. The fact that Microsoft owns the IP
Yeah.
That's a lot of signs, and maybe Remedy is only doing a part of it. Maybe they're saying, you know what, we like you doing this part, but we're gonna take it to these guys.
Yeah.
Or we're gonna have these guys help you out, and so they have a little more say in that particular project than maybe I would say even Sunset Overdrive. That's owned by, I believe.
It is owned by, yeah, it is. But I mean, I think Microsoft, it's like the same thing with Alan Wake, right? Like Microsoft doesn't own Alan Wake, but they own the publishing rights for like 3 or 4 games.
That's the reason why you only see, I would imagine you would only see a certain percentage of those games made and not the last one. That's kind of a way to kind of stonewall a game, or have a game associated on your platform and not have it end up on another platform.
Yeah.
See, in regards to that, so
that was the rumor that there was 3 publishing deal for 3 Sunset deals, right, with Microsoft. So they could still probably technically do one. And I see people asking about Rise. Like Crytek owns that completely. So
yeah,
you know,
see, I feel Sunset Overdrive out of all these, and I want to see a Quantum Break too. I beat the first one, and for anybody who's gotten all the way to the end of that game, you know that screams sequel right there. But I feel that Sunset Overdrive is the better kind of like IP in terms of marketing and building a franchise around. In my opinion,
you could do co-op campaign with that. Exactly. Also, you could do team deathmatch. Like, I don't understand why they didn't have some kind of multiplayer deathmatch or whatever. You know, I know it had some kind of co-op stuff.
That did seem like that was something that was heavily missing from that type of game.
Yeah, and you know what else is right up Microsoft's alley? They could do loot boxes in that, because, you know, you get new outfits or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah,
and the cloud compute for the worlds and stuff. To me, that just screams sequel. You know,
exactly.
The problem with Sunset Overdrive was, for everybody that liked it, sort of its narrative, like how the game was portrayed, its art style, its play control, it was fantastic. I mean, Insomniac nailed it, knocked it out of the park. I think that the problem was, I think the audience was very split, because I think for everybody that kind of likes it, there's like somebody that didn't really like it, and they didn't like it because it didn't take itself too seriously, because it was an open world game that got a little convoluted. You know what I mean? Like, I liked it. So I'm not ragging on the game, but
no game's going to be for everybody, though. You got to remember that, man.
The only downside I had with Sunset Overdrive was those stupid like tower defense type parts. I hated those parts.
Yeah, sort of like in Brutal Legend. I hated the
I hated those parts.
That's why I couldn't beat that game. That last part there was really,
that was actually one of the annoying things in Gears 4. I didn't really care for that as you progressed.
Hey, but they tried something different there, Mooch. No cookie cutter there.
That's not different. That's been in every Horde mode since the beginning of Gears.
Yeah, but
they plunked Horde mode in the middle of the goddamn story. Listen, that's a bad example. But you know, that's not what I want for change.
Horde mode, you weren't able to like construct stuff to keep them out though. Like in the original.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. That is true.
So, I wonder if that game would do better with Game Pass, to be honest with you, going forward, because the biggest problem with that game is getting people to try it. You know, like, I know so many people that didn't want to even play the game, but are just like, come on, just give it a shot, right? And once they finally convinced them to try it, they loved it, right? So
that's actually a good point there, right? Me and Crapgamer both had friends that we used to game with it.
Even Grave, who's been on this podcast, we were like, hey, download this game. It's really good. Nah, I never.
Yeah, when it was on Games with Gold yet, like for free.
I'm like, it's free. Download it. It's fun. No, that looks stupid. I'm not really interested.
That's why the game needs co-op, right? Like, so if you have that situation where like, hey, you should try out the game. Well, I don't want. You know what? Why don't you play co-op with me? Give it a shot, right? It's on Game Pass. Give it a shot. Like, that's what all this is kind of going for. Like, one of the biggest issues in gaming behind the scenes is the fact that gamers are not willing to give things a shot, right?
Yeah.
They prejudge things before they get their hands on it. A lot of it's trusting personalities. Maybe they're not necessarily in line with their particular opinion, but they feel like they've spoken to them and they've already prejudged something. Or some people are just like, you know what, I just played my 2 games and that's it, a year. And these are big issues within the industry. So, you know, that's why I always like the idea of Game Pass, even though like people try to put it into a different pedestal where it's not. You know, it really is getting people to try stuff, getting people to think about, hey, I already spent this money on this, but It's cheap. I can give this a shot. You know, you have co-op stuff that pulls people in. Like, to be honest with you, playing Gears, like Gears is one of the best like co-op campaign games I think out there in the industry.
Yeah.
And realistically, you know, what got me playing that game was my buddy was excited about it. I didn't even know about it. Gears 1, and we got it at launch. And when I was done, I remember playing that game. When I was done, I just put down the controllers. Like, I don't want to play any other game except for co-op. I was in that mindset for like 3 or 4 years after that game. Right.
Yeah.
So like that stuff has power. There's that, you have to bypass like honestly the media to a certain degree and just get stuff straight into the gamer's hands, what it boils down to.
Yeah, and I think that's a good idea. You know, it's like, and you're right, like the co-op stuff is really you know, really big, and I think that's going to be pretty damn cool in the future. Like, I think right now Game Pass is just something because some of these games that they have coming out, people are iffy on, like Sea of Thieves and Crackdown 3 in particular. Like, people are probably going to like want to avoid that, but they might go, you know what, I'll try that in Game Pass. You know, yeah, that's worth it.
If you want to try out Sea of Z's or Boredom 3, there you go.
Oh, dude, you like Sea of Thieves? Come on, man. You're a Sea of Thieves fan. Quit lying. Hellhammer always wants to play some. Yeah.
Yeah, we got that new content coming this month.
We do, man. I'm excited for that. I mean, Mooch, if you're excited for DLC on Destiny 2, you should be excited for DLC on this, right?
Well, I don't really know what it is that's coming. I mean, I know
the deep whatever it is, man. It sounds really good. You know,
but I don't. Listen, I think we've got to. It's one of those things where you got to show me, right? Like, I haven't played the DLC for Destiny 2 yet. I mean,
yeah,
and it depends. It's, you know, like, you know, people say this all the time. We're the vocal minority. A lot of people on Twitter today are saying that it was good. A lot of people were saying it's not good. And the minute somebody was saying it was good, the argument then started to come out from the people who were saying it wasn't good, that they're not getting as many things as the PlayStation people. So, like, it depends on who you talk to.
One strike, and that is their biggest complaint.
Well, not just that, but and the one strike that we didn't get in the last one that finally came out at the end, it was actually a crappy strike.
Yeah,
you know. So I mean, it depends how you look at it. It depends on who you talk to. You know, it all depends. So I mean, to answer your question, Crap, here's the thing. Part of the fun in that I had, especially the first few weeks in Sea of Thieves, was running into other ships. Yeah. Me and you have recently played, and we can't find a ship. So I mean, that's the problem I'm having now.
I saw one in a distance. We just kind of went the other way, you know.
Well, like, yeah, but I mean, that's the whole thing. I don't want to also every time have to start like aiming for a ship. I liked it when it was like, remember Hellhammer did it like the best. Holy shit, a ship! Wait a minute, another ship! Like, it was great. Like, that was what I like, because then you're in the middle of a treasure hunt, and you're like, we got to get out of here. We're going to lose all those chests.
The way that game is designed is, you know, there's a lot of things that pull players to interact with one another, but you have to be like deep into your voyages, right? So they have to play with that formula a little bit. So if someone finds a message in the bottle, it forces them to go to an island that someone else already has, right?
Yes.
And so it forces those interactions. And so they need to mess with that sort of formula, more messages in the bottle, whatever it may be, to make those encounters
That's a good point, though.
happen a little bit more. And then there's other things that pull away from that, right? And like people don't realize. So like when there's a skeleton fort, sometimes that's the best time to go do all the other missions, because you're not going to be bothered if that's what you want to do.
Right.
Or if you do want to interact with people and you do want to cause some havoc, go to a skeleton fort. It's like, so like they do have to play around with it. What's interesting to me on this one is, wasn't this the DLC that we're supposed to get 3 months down the road, and now we're getting it now?
Yes.
This isn't the pet DLC though.
No, not the pet one, but it is. Don is right.
But didn't they restructure to a certain degree? So like they cut some of the stuff out they were going to get 3 months down the road.
Yeah.
They push things further up so we can get it sooner, right?
Yeah, we're getting DLC like every month, like April, May, June, or May, June, July. So they're and they've got 3 teams working on these things, like to crank this out, which I understand.
So
my bad for cutting in here, but Noof, I agree with you. I'd rather play Sea of Thieves than Detroit Become Human as well. I don't like storybook.
Well, that's
kind of hitting A button games.
Don't get me wrong, Noof, and you have every right to say that, but that's like saying, I don't want fruit. I was really hoping we were going to go to Long John Silver's. That's completely two different worlds, guys.
I'm not a fan of Quantic Dreams games, man. That's just me.
No,
They're
that's
artistic, then they got these great graphics, but you know what I mean? They just, I don't know. I just can't get into the play style. How you kind of do like a quick time for every little move. You don't have like real actual control of your character per se. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Exactly. So I agree. You know what? I think the game's still holding well, like in the UK and stuff. It'll be interesting to see how it does with the US in terms of NPD. But speaking of another game rumor, this was an interesting one, was a Battletoads, right? This is I know it sounds fake, right? But this is like something that really was come out. Like a composer had listed as an upcoming game, Battletoads 20/20, as being a game coming to Xbox One. So I think, you know,
a big question I always had with Microsoft is because they own all those IPs like Battletoads, all that stuff. Why they haven't just at least been pushing out some of these games, like sort of like the Nintendo Virtual Console deal or whatever? Just some of these games, just to get them out there to make sure to keep them fresh in people's minds, like.
You know, like people have been asking for Battletoads for a long time, and it doesn't seem like it'd be a big budget game to do. Yeah. So, like, it does make sense that it's something they could probably get done pretty fast and get out there for the fans. And I think, you know, hey, Mooch, nostalgia. I mean, what is that, right?
It's a hell of a drug, buddy. But the problem is like I think, you know, I don't know. I'm at the point right now where you've made this point to me, so I'm just reiterating your words. You know, you were like, well, Recore was done quickly and it wasn't fun. That's not. If you're gonna take Battletoads, I was looking forward to a full-fledged redo of Battletoads.
Well, it would
like
be.
Well, no, I don't, not the way I'm hearing you describe it. It sounds more like it's going to be Battletoads, like Raging Justice is a remake of Streets of Rage. Like, it's just going to be a nice paint job on top of the Battletoads we know.
Well, I mean, what else would you do with it? Like, it's a side-scrolling
You have to innovate. You have to do things. Like, I mean, we can't just keep being like, just take that 80s arcade game and throw some new paint on that shit and sell it. You know what I mean? We're starting to sound like used car salesmen.
What if they make it?
No, I'm not taking a dump on it. You're like, hey, just, you know, Gears 4, make Gears 5 at the same time. Make Gears 6 right now. Like,
hey, I think they should have Gears 6 being co-developed with Gears 5. So
if we've got everybody at Rare making we got all hands on deck working on the DLC for Sea of Thieves, who the hell's making Battletoads?
I doubt that they're really doing Battletoads.
I agree.
If I had to gauge the community, Battletoads, people are going to yell, open world, third person, camera over the shoulder, let's go.
Let's do it.
Exactly.
Actually, to be honest, Xbox, you know what? Xbox, that sounds.
Battletoads is just going to be just like if it's something that's actually that comes to fruition, it's just going to be like Killer Instinct, where it's going to be Battletoads, but with some new graphics slapped over top of it.
T in the chat said, make it a third person action adventure. See, I was right. I was
just gonna say, did you do that? All of a sudden, you know what you do? You win awards and sell a lot. I don't know. What are you gonna say? It works. That model works, but
it works for Sony. I'm not sure that worked for Xbox. You know?
Yeah, like, I mean, Quantum Break was third person, right?
Yeah, I mean, look. Here's the thing. This is just more content for Game Pass. Another option for gamers.
That's fine.
I don't think that this is a AAA. Like, I mean, I don't even think that's an IP you could turn into a AAA, to be honest with you.
Yo, Great Skull Zero in the chat said, Toad of War. Wouldn't that be funny to use Battletoads to kind of like do like a...
I would like what the hell is that game that we're playing?
Raging Justice.
I would like a Battletoads like that, looking that good. You know what I mean?
Battletoads, Toad of War, choke to your croak edition. Yeah.
I mean, I think it'll be fun. I think that's nostalgic. I think that rings a certain kind of, you know, nostalgic bell with people, and they're like, hey, you know, maybe we'll check that out. Because right now, Microsoft's not doing a good enough job of doing that. Sony does that. Microsoft doesn't really pull the nostalgia heartstrings like Sony does. You know, if they're like, hey, they did it with me with Killer Instinct. When me and Hellhammer saw Killer Instinct at E3, we were like, whoa. You know,
that's true. That's what sold me the Xbox One, was when they were like Killer Instinct.
Yeah, when you heard the voice and the music, yeah, that's what got me to buy an Xbox One. I'm being 100% honest with you. So I mean, for me, a Battletoads game would be awesome. I think that would be kick ass, and I hope they actually do that. So,
well, you want to hear something crazy? What got me to buy an Xbox One was kind of like the always online feature and everything like that, man.
Yeah, remember when they were like, "Hey, while you're waiting for your game to set up, you can play Killer Instinct."
Yeah, you get an alert when matchmaking is ready, like on your game in the background, and you just go back in and play your game and stuff like that. The stuff that they were showing.
Yeah, the features they showed.
My goodness.
Next generation, because we were so starved for so long, especially on the hardware end in the gaming world. You saw everything else advancing, right? You saw these phones and this and that and blah, 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 blah. I mean, refrigerators have touch screen panels now. And all of a sudden, I was like, that's the stuff I wanted to see. And it was funny. That was the first thing the media shit on.
You know what? I liked it, but you know, for me, I didn't have a problem with what Microsoft was doing with the Xbox One.
Yeah, I'm always online, anyways. I don't game unless I'm online.
Here's the thing: if the internet's out, I don't play online. I don't game anyway. You know, because it's always sketchy with your achievements and stuff like that. So, you know, but this was interesting, and this is one of the reasons why I have the Don on was because there was this other developer who kind of says what you've been saying. He said, if a new console, new generation releases within the next few years, there won't be a huge advantage on the Xbox One X as it stands. And he actually sees the current gen lasting longer than last generation. Dom, isn't that similar to what you've been saying for a couple of weeks now?
Yeah, I mean, to a certain degree. You know, I think all the developers have a slightly different take on it. But, you know, I just feel like a ton more power equals a little bit difference that's noticeable by certain groups of people, right? So, you know, you can double the power, but the reality is there's a certain segment that's just not going to notice that. And the fact that games are always started on more powerful hardware and scaled down anyways, right? So, I mean, there's games right now that are put on the S that are developed on more powerful hardware than what we're going to be getting on our next generation consoles as of today. So, like, I just don't see all that stuff kind of holding each other back. And I think he's looking at it as like, the way I look at it is I don't think the generation will ever end. This is the generation that won't end. That's just
bad news for Microsoft.
You just gave Phil Spencer like a nightmare. Phil Spencer just poured a vodka straight.
but I think he knows that too.
Of course he knows it.
I mean, because that's his whole mantra. I mean, we only know in relationship to the X and the S right now, right? So when he had the mantra of your games will no longer get old, nor will your hardware, all that sort of stuff. I mean, that obviously definitely 100% applies to the X. So the question is, does it apply past that? And a lot of what I know from developers want that. The majority of people that I know behind the scenes 100% want that. So
couldn't Sony though, like if they do decide not to do the forward compatibility stuff, being that they're so much like the darlings and kind of swinging the big D, like force some of these developers' hands to do pretty much what they want. I mean, honestly, they could be getting some of this time content for free because they have this larger platform, you know.
Well, I mean, if the next box matches from Microsoft's side with Sony's side of things, I don't think it's not going to hurt Microsoft is the way I look at it.
Yeah.
And Sony can try to force the hand, but I mean they have to have a ridiculously strong launch is the way I look at it.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's always that possibility, but I can't even imagine how strong of a launch that would have to be in order to do it. I mean, that's the reason why, like behind the scenes, there's certain things that developers are asking from Sony. And you know, it's really quiet right now. It doesn't mean they're not doing it. It doesn't mean they're not working or looking into it.
Yeah,
it's just, you know, they're not really saying anything, and I think that's where a lot of the rumors stem from. Where on the Sony side of things, that's the reason why the PlayStation 5 is not going to be forwards and backwards compatible, because there's certain software that basically you want to run, you know, your API that developers want them to change, and they don't seem like they want to. And it seems like the best way to do it is do new hardware to fix it. So
yeah, well, they're both going to be backwards compatible. You know, like well, at least I mean, Xbox is going to have.
Well, I mean, it would make no sense now for things not to be backwards compatible since they're using XBN.
Yeah, unless they go with cell processor too. Like it's not really. They're not going to do that, right?
Yeah,
Scott, don't you like developing for the cell processor though? I heard that.
I'm glad I skipped that whole entire thing. I'm glad I never had to deal with that. You know, in regards, I heard like there's people that still have nightmares about it. To be honest with you.
Well, yeah, people. I mean, it was the reason why they didn't get, or they got half-ass ports of games. I can remember when me and Hellhammer coming from Xbox 360, playing PS3 Call of Duty games, we're like, why is the game giving me a headache? And it was because the frames are dropping so much on that game, right? And we weren't used to that on the Xbox 360 version. Like Hellhammer would literally be like, I have a migraine.
Yeah, I couldn't play it for very long. Like I'd be like, wow, this is really bad.
Yeah, or like the orange.
Like I don't know if it was drops or just like the frame timing was off. Like why wasn't
Which game was this crap?
Call of Duty, man.
Call of Duty.
Oh yeah,
PlayStation 3
and Call of Duty 4. Those were really, really bad on the PS3. So I mean, in terms of the frame rate and stuff.
Okay.
So, or it could have been frame pacing. I'm not really sure which one it was.
I would guess it's probably going to be more along the lines of frame pacing.
Yeah, but it was pretty bad. So I mean, like, I'm interested in this because I like when I seen another developer saying this, I'm like, the Don's been saying that because I'm like, man, well, that next gen leap, and you're like, it's not really gonna be this big leap.
Yeah, like I want to embrace people. Like, people get all hyped up about something, and it's been this whole entire generation like this, right? They have these expectations that have never been met, and like slow down, guys. You're ruining it for yourselves.
Yeah,
that's what it boils down to.
The last time that the Don was here on the show, we went over that it's not going to be like this next generation isn't going to be like this great big leap. Like,
I have a feel. I just have a feeling with the infrastructure, how they built the Xbox One X, and them using like the Jaguar cores and stuff like that. If they bump up the CPU and the GPU, but keep like kind of like everything else around it intact, I think we could see it like a pretty big leap if that's what they're doing for next gen.
You're going to get great performance. So the problem is everything that we have now today available in games by the end of this year is the same stuff that's done in CG wise on movies, just on a grander scale.
Yeah.
So that's why I say like it is going to be a slow increase, right?
Yeah.
Like, I can tell when something has better lighting, but I'll show it to somebody else I know that plays games and they don't see it. Like I still have friends that don't see the lighting difference between Destiny 1 and Destiny 2. And anyone that plays that game that really loves Destiny 2 and how visually it looks will tell you the lighting is incredibly better on that version of the game. But I run into people all the time that don't see the difference, and they buy literally 20 games a year. So they're not like, the casual.
They get their eyes checked.
Well, I mean, some people just have a harder time telling the difference between stuff like that. But yeah. I mean, I think the main thing that we're going to see the main power boost on for any next gen systems is going to be on the CPU side.
Yes, yeah, but that's going to be tied up by other things too. Like that's going to be tied up by what they're going to be able to do with ray tracing, and then.
But see, Don, you say that you confuse us when you say that though. You're like it's going to be small incremental moves, and then you're like, oh no, it'll be tied up with ray tracing. Ray tracing's like 4 or 5 years from now to be like a major staple in the gaming world. I'm not saying they're not going to dabble with ray tracing next week. I know you're going to say that. You're like, well, Mooch, you don't realize they're doing it now. They're doing it now, but they're doing it like a glass on a table in the distance. You know what I mean? It's like my point being is like if everything's going to be what you just said a second ago, gradual incremental moves moving forward, then what Hellhammer said is right. And what I've been saying is the CPU being a huge boost into the next generation will be something that we all notice and that developers utilize the most, at least for the foreseeable future. Now, that doesn't mean they're not going to do the ray tracing and use up CPU power, etc. I agree with you. That's a no-brainer. But to say ray tracing is really going to be something we're doing, not in the next 2 to 4 years, not the way that we saw it illustrated at the Build
they
conference.
said ray tracing in like smaller elements, like reflections off the water, and it actually could really add into.
Yes, it can.
But the problem is that eats up a lot of compute power. So here's where I'm going with this. Like, way I vision the next generation is cloud computing is essential. I don't care if you're talking about PlayStation. I don't care if you're talking about Xbox. It is 1% key. Because the next powerful CPUs around the corner that we're talking about, and everyone's all excited about, I look at those things as not enough. Okay. Simple as that.
I'll agree with you. I'll agree with you there.
Yeah, they're not enough. So the problem is you have to have, and I'll make this argument. Some people think that cloud compute is really good on the graphics side of things. It can help, right? But I think the real benefits are on the CPU side of things, the way things are, intelligent computing type stuff. That's where cloud compute I see has the biggest benefit to us as gamers. So when I say these sort of things, like I can show a really good render that's not not ray trace and inverse, and then I guarantee only about half the people I show is going to pick up on it, the other half's not, right? So how that's implemented in balance between all these games is just going to be simply different. So for the hardcores, there's some people that can see these differences. Like we just talked about the whole Destiny thing. So I'm willing to bet that Mooch is going to see the difference. But some other people are not. And I think the expectation, like what you got from, like, for example, the PlayStation, the original Xbox in the PlayStation 2 era to the 360 and PlayStation 3 era, that jump is over with.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying.
You know what part of that jump was too, though, Don? It was the jump from standard def to high def. So it made it even look better. You know what I'm saying?
One of the biggest things that contributed to that was normal mapping. You got it in small doses in very few games in the previous generation on the Xbox side primarily.
Yeah.
Going forward, that's the primary technology that made Gears 1 look the way it is, right? It looks like a ton of different geometry, but it's a very high-level three-dimensional texture map, essentially, is what the way it works is. So, and that's implemented to everything now. That's the reason why you can see pores on characters' faces and stuff like that. So that's one of the breakthrough technologies that happened really last gen, and then also the lighting side of things. Well, they're still using that same sort of normal mapping going forward. There's nothing that's been able to outdo that, right? The only thing that's helped that is a little bit better texture filtering. So, right, that's why it's a small incremental upgrade, but it's there. Yeah. And in the same sort of lighting was last gen, but it's just done at a higher fidelity now. So that's why I'm saying, like, there's going to be differences. Don't get me wrong, but just I would say temper the expectations to something more like what you saw from the standard Xbox. And
yeah, it's not gonna be that huge jump. You're exactly right.
Yeah, and now a lot of people are gonna be depressed, like, oh man, I wanted 60 frames per second on every game. You're going to get a 10% increase, and you're also going to get a slow increase until whatever the next hardware is when developers start to make that decision. So you're going to get that. You're just not going to get it on every game.
I mean, yeah, I mean, you're not going to get that on every game. Like, you're going to see an increase on it because, I mean, obviously with the increased CPU side, there's obviously going to be an upgrade to the GPU side. You're going to be able to hit 4K 60 on games as they sit now with the current settings that they would play on the X. Pretty often.
Well, you're also going to see other techniques like frame rate interpolation, which is basically frame rate upscaling, if you want to just put it in most basic terms. My new television I just got, new QLED, has really low latency with frame rate interpolation built into the television. So, like, it has, like, literally the same sort of...
frame rate interpolation's been around for a little while, though, at least in like the TV side.
It has been on the TV side of things, but you always pay the penalty for basically bad input.
Oh, yeah.
So now you have TVs that actually have good input. Now you don't have that latency issue with that. So, like, a lot of people, you're going to have these different solutions that, like, you take a step back and see what's really going on there through new televisions, through new techniques that developers are going to do. You are going to see smoother frame rates, and you're also going to see, other things along the lines of locking frames at different frame rates. Now that you can actually have FreeSync essentially pushed to your television, so you can lock it at 40 or 50 or whatever makes sense to make sure the game's stable. So
yeah. That's some interesting tech talk there, Don, and I want to get everybody's opinion on this as well, because Microsoft did their build conference and they announced Ubisoft as like one of their customers, and Ubisoft have a release. So actually, it's interesting that Ubisoft games are going to be running on Azure on PS4 even. Kind of unexpected. I didn't think Sony would allow that. Is that something that they don't really have a choice because the third parties renting them, or?
I don't say, well, my bad. When it comes to that, my bad, Don. But I was gonna say, when it comes down to it, when a multi-plat company like Ubisoft decides that they're gonna partner with a cloud platform, a server platform like Azure, I mean, the only option PlayStation would have would be like, all right, well, we don't want your games on our platform. Then you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think they would do that.
Well, Ubisoft used to use Google servers, right? But I guess yeah, so now they're going, and same thing with PUBG Corp, right? There's a lot of Microsoft announced all the corporations that are using Azure, and it's like it's a lot of them.
That's because Azure, it's like a hell of a lot better than Google from my experience.
Yeah, well now like Microsoft is like, it's funny because Microsoft was built like basically on Windows, and now they're like kind of Windows is an afterthought, and it's all about like the cloud and stuff like that. So I mean, I don't really care so much about the cloud stuff, but that was interesting to me because Ubisoft servers were really shitty. And I just never thought that I would see the day when, but I guess, I mean, Sony can't really say much about it. It's not like, you know, I mean, if Ubisoft are paying for these servers, then it's just another server farm, but it just was odd to me to see that happen.
I think it's pretty clear at this point that this was the plan for Microsoft since the beginning of the Xbox launch, right? When they said developers can have free access to Azure, that was the trap, right?
Yeah.
You get it free. Doesn't mean you can't have it done on other platforms, right? But that's when you have to pay in regards to that. And you get a little bit of pushback because there's people that within those companies are told to invest in their own personal servers or whatever they may be, and you know their job may be on the line and to switch to something totally different when Microsoft said that, right?
Yeah.
But that was always Microsoft's plan when they announced it for developers. So, you know, and it's still cheaper for the developer to do that. I don't know what if there's new agreements on the Sony side of things. There might be like, yeah, you can use those servers, but you cannot be connected to Xbox Live. It could be something along those lines. So I don't really know what the requirements are on that side of things. But, you know, that's good for PlayStation gamers, right? At the end of the day, you're going to be getting much more stable games. And that's something that I want for the PlayStation side of things, along with Xbox.
And more security for PlayStation, since we know that PlayStation servers aren't that secure.
Well, no, security still goes through whatever network they have. So, like, it doesn't, so basically Sony pays, once they take payment, they take that and they forward it on to Ubisoft. So Ubisoft is not involved in that portion of it. So, but it would be more secure for
just a joke on my head.
It was a poor joke, Hellhammer.
But it will be more secure for Ubisoft if you think about it. Like, their game was most likely would be less hacked and exploits and things along those lines. So that's the upside.
That's good news too. Mooch, I want to talk about your favorite game, the game of the generation, game of games.
Yes.
It becomes Sony's fastest selling PS4 exclusive this gen, over 3.1 million in just 3 days.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? I mean,
well, I think it just goes to show, and I can't remember if it was, I think it was Xbot. He made it, reference. He's like, how do you make Battletoads better? And he just described everything that Sony Santa Monica did for God of War.
It's the process, people.
It is. Trust the process. Yeah, I don't know. I think it is what it is, right? We all knew it was going to be a big deal. It's also I can't remember if Don said this a couple of weeks back or if I read it somewhere, but it was the perfect storm. We've had everybody in the world wanting that single player game. That wasn't on Nintendo, because Nintendo's been giving
Don didn't want it, by the way.
I didn't say no. I said Don had mentioned that.
I know.
The industry was starving for that, because we kept getting all these multiplayer stuff, one thing after another, which was good, and people are enjoying themselves. But you're still missing something. Right?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I'm excited to play Destiny 2 tonight, and I'm gonna because the DLC dropped. But there's a part of me that wants to go and continue where I left off on God of War. I mean, the game has something that is very luring to it, and I don't know what it is. I really do think, to be honest with you, sometimes people don't want to break it down and look at it what it actually is. But the mechanics, and Don, you can speak to this, the mechanics that went into the Leviathan axe, it's not necessarily the powers that come off of it. The idea to throw it, retract it, bring it back, the feeling that it has when it comes back in your hand, the way that the rumble works in the controller. It gives you that, we're all living in this world right now. We're like, oh my God, Avengers is amazing. And oh my God, this is coming out. That's amazing. We're living in this Marvel universe right now, if you will. And to be able to go home and play God of War and actually feel like that character, and it was done correctly, is a very rewarding process.
It's very well polished. It's like how you do the animations and how you do the timing of the animations, and
that's what I think makes it the gold standard.
Yeah. So this is one reason why people don't understand doubling frame rate sometimes kind of messes up the experience. Sometimes I'm not big on the whole cinematic excuse because I don't believe in that, but the whole thing is there is timing to all that sort of stuff. So I think what makes a good game where you are truly a brawler, doesn't matter if it's like a Street Fighter style game or a game like God of War, you have to get those animations down, and then they add that extra bit of immersion with the with the rumble, which is what Rumble's supposed to do instead of just being something that vibrates in the background. It's supposed to be that extra bit of
last week. I was going
Yeah,
to
Mooch
dabble
is
with
turning
them.
into a big pony. You know, he's like,
As much as crap, who did a review on it. But
hey, great. It's the game of game of the existence of mankind.
Yes, it comes with a free tattoo at your local tattoo dealer. I did pick up the new Platinum head. Are you referring to Sony's Platinum headset?
Yeah, that's kind of because it's a proprietary. They don't use Atmos on their setup, so they have their own thing. It's not really supported.
That's why I picked it up. And supposedly there's an app I have to download on the PlayStation, and then it's good for Uncharted, God of War. So the sound is supposed to be remarkable.
Sony exclusives and a couple key ones outside of the Sony exclusive library.
Why don't they do Atmos?
I don't know. It might be a licensing thing. It might be like, you know, Sony as a company in general likes to do their own standards, and you know how that works out for them. So it may be along those lines. I'm not sure what was going on there.
Interesting. That's kind of interesting there.
Yeah,
you know?
I actually always wondered why Sony didn't do Atmos either, because I mean they have like televisions and Blu-ray players and that sort of thing to support it, but
they're not selling their own version to somebody else. It's not like they're licensing out, so I don't know what the thought process is there in regards to that. Maybe they just don't feel like they have enough support. You know, we know there is a CPU difference between the two different platforms, so the Xbox sound processor has been put on a pedestal quite a bit since the launch of the system. So there could be that was built with that in mind in the future. But it's all software, right? So if someone's talented enough, they can do it. I'm not that talented when it comes to that sort of stuff, but with software, it's always possible. So
yeah, like emulating the cell processor so you could get backwards compatibility.
I don't. That would take a genius.
I mean, Microsoft pulled off. I know it's not the cell, but nobody thought they would be able to do backward compatibility. And
yes, that's the thing is like that was never thought to be possible. And obviously, they pulled that off.
Yeah.
But the demands of that is much less than trying to do that with cell.
It's also not emulation either, really. Like it's an emulation layer, but the games are recompiled.
I'm not familiar with what they're doing on the backwards compat side on Xbox.
So from my understanding, it's a layer, but they basically take the source and recompile it for x86.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, that's interesting. I have no idea what he's talking about, but I kind of wanted to close with this. Like, do you guys see? Because EA confirmed that Battlefield is going to have a single player campaign. Do you guys see that possibly jumping on Call of Duty? Sort of like how Sony jumped on Xbox when they announced DRM and all this stuff. Like they're going to go, hey, over here, we've got your single player and your multiplayer. You guys see this as a way of them to gain some ground?
I see it as a good marketing tactic. I think at the end of the day, they're probably not going to surpass Call of Duty, but it'll definitely, if the rumors are true and there's no single player campaign on the Call of Duty side, I mean, it can make a dent in what's going on there in terms of them as rivals. But at the end of the day, I still think Call of Duty is going to sell more because more people go in for the multiplayer, man.
Yeah, I mean, what exactly is Black Ops about Black Ops without the campaign? No, like that always
Black Ops without the ops, man.
Yeah,
I thought they already confirmed that wasn't the case with their game.
Maybe. I mean, they haven't really. They didn't say one way or the other.
Of course, I heard that through the grapevine, so I don't really know.
But I'm pretty sure that Activision has heard the so-called rumors. So you'd think that they would have come out and dispelled that, because that's kind of a bad marketing rumor to go around when you're trying to sell a game, and then all of a sudden you got half the community going, "Yeah, there's no campaign. We might not buy this one." Like I would have a guy on my marketing team coming up and be like right away, like, "No, guys, what you heard is false. We have a campaign." Would you not think that would be a legitimate strategy?
I thought that would have been a legitimate strategy for Microsoft when everybody for 8 months before the Xbox One was even revealed was saying, did you hear it's going to be DRM and all this, right? Like, so as far as I'm concerned, it just shows that they either aren't listening or they don't care. So I don't know, but
well, I think on that point, like I don't think Activision really cares. Honestly, it's like because every year they have that set of people who says I'm not buying the Call of Duty game this year, and then they still sell 6, 7, 8 million copies.
Or they don't 20. Seem to be a very reactionary company in general. Like they have a plan and they kind of stick to that plan, whatever that plan is. So that's kind of how they seem to roll.
Exactly, and Mooch sent me the gift, so that means we got to do outro. Mooch, what do you got going on, bro?
We have Crossfire, 7 p.m. Friday night. It's going to be a lot of fun, man. It's going to be just a lot of conversation. It'll be a little bit of this, little for Rock. Shout out to Rock31 in the chat. It'll be a lot less God of War talk. That's right. Yes, thank you, everybody. And that's pretty much it for this weekend. It's going to be a nice chill weekend.
Everyone hit that like button. Let's see if we can't get to 250 at least. Let's go. Hellhammer, what do you got going on?
Nothing much, actually. I won't even be here for the next Xbox Nation because I'll be on vacation.
Okay, I'll have to find somebody to
Crap sounds like Seinfeld there. He's like, what do you mean Kramer went on vacation? His life's a vacation. He's like, he falls ass backwards in the money. It's great.
Basically.
Otherwise, you can find me on Twitter at XXHellhammer or on Xbox Live, XX_Hellhammer.
Nice stuff. Boom, boom, kaboom, noob, noob, come in the room. What's going on, Noob?
Well, I don't know, man. I do apologize in advance because I wasn't overly vocal tonight. Sometimes it's just you get a sync coming in late on the show, but I think my TNT might have gone a little bit soggy there, so it was a boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom, kaboom. Yeah, all right, but no, man, you guys know where to find me as always. Noof Nukem on Xbox, Noof_Nukem on PlayStation, and coming up here shortly in less than half an hour, the latest episode 19, mixing it up with Noof tonight. I have Nintendo Direct.
Yeah,
so we're gonna be hanging out, playing some games, and doing that stuff. Hopefully, I'll see a few guys up in the chat.
Who's the special guest tonight? Who do you have?
Nintendo Direct.
Oh yes, Nick. Okay, yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
We've got the Xbox 448. What's going on, people? What's going on, Xbox? What do you got going on, bro?
As usual on my channel, Xbox 448 every Saturday is the next podcast. Come hang out with me, the Don, K Mega. That Angry Otter is back, and of course, Predator. We do gameplay with the gaming news, and then you can vote for who has the best gameplay. And I have no idea why K Mega keeps winning, man. I don't know.
Because the Don wasn't part of the last one. So
no, this is what we agreed on. All right. Whoever wins, they get their gameplay shown again. And I have like a golden disco ball and stuff going on to let people know that was the winner from last week. You cannot vote for the winner for last week again. All right.
Oh, gotcha.
I saw that on Twitter. Everybody's like, "Yeah, where's the option for the Don?" I'm like, "No, he already won."
And we also, man, thanks Don for coming and bringing some level-headed tech discussion with us, man. I appreciate it. What do you got going on?
Absolutely. The best way to figure out what I'm doing is follow me on Twitter, which is the Don_KTR, and then it's the same thing on Xbox Live, just no underscore. And I think I'm going to be with Boomstick Friday morning.
Breakfast with Boom.
Myself too. I'll be there too. That's right.
Yeah, so you'll see me there, and then obviously my home is next podcast, and yeah, you just have to be a little harder with bot, man. You have to give the people what they want, bot. You have to give them the option. That's why people. That's why people want to do that. And
hashtag don't break the rules, man. I'm saying.
Listen here, I didn't co-sign on those rules. I don't know where these came from, but you don't want to miss my gameplay this week. I'm going to pull out some pretty funny games, so I think you guys are going to like it. You're going to see Sea of Thieves ships flying in the air. You're going to see Mud Runners, and then I just got a game that's in preview that I'll be showing off on next as well. So
awesome. And with that, man, we appreciate it. Hit that like button once again, and we will catch you guys next week. Be good to each other. Have fun gaming, and we'll see you later. Have a good day. Have a good night. Thanks.